right, for those of you who don't know, just to let you know who's on here tonight, Mary Coventry is here, and Charlotte Boynton, who writes for Lincoln County News. And Charlotte and Mary, I don't know how well you can see the audience back there, but we have Bob Mooney and Dennis Dunbar, and Ted Christie, and Jim Cromwell, and Adam and Gary Weber. So when somebody speaks, if you're trying to capture them, and if you guys, when you talk, just make sure your voice is loud so that she can get all that information. All right, 7 o'clock, and so I'd like to start our meeting tonight. I'd like to begin with warrants, and I'd like to move that we accept payroll number 66 for $1,885.96. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I'd like to move to accept accounts payable number 67 for $91,723.24. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And that is, again, an RSU, I believe, amount for almost $79,000. So that's why that's so expensive. I'd like to move to accept payroll number 68 for $1,885.96. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, I'd like to move to accept accounts payable number 69 for $15,358.07. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to move to accept the minutes of January 8th, 2024 select board meeting. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
While we're here, we'll go ahead and sign that. All right. I'm going to go down to citizens issues, and we just had one, and I want to just mention it briefly because I want to capture this information that somebody new on the island was looking for spectrum, and just to put it out there that if you are trying to get spectrum and you're struggling, come let the committee know, or you can let us know, the board. But we're still working a few issues out. So.
By committee, it's the broadband and technology committee.
Yep.
And it's Jason Cates, Ralph Jacobs, myself, and people.
Yep. But if you have any questions or whatever, you can also contact any of us. All right. We're going to go with our committee and official reports, and we were going to start with RSU, but Mary, Richard's not here. Do you know if he's planning to come?
Yes, he is. I was texting with him today. So yes, he was planning to be here.
Okay, so we'll wait and put you second or third. Okay.
Okay. Thank
All
you.
right, so we're going to go to the harbor master, and basically what we have asked is we're inviting each committee, especially those who deal with any kind of funding issues, to come and just share what they've been up to, what's happening, how they're feeling about how things are going. And so we've invited the RSU committee, the harbor masters, their committee, and the Wright Landing committee today to speak. Ted, we're going to put you up. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm up. I'll get the moorings in a minute. I'll give you an update on January 10th and January 13th storms. These are only things that I observed. I'm sure there's a lot, maybe some other issues that are taking place caused by the storms, but I totaled 8 piers that were destroyed.
These are all personal, people's personal property.
Personal property, yeah. 4 piers with partial damage. 4 float hull, 4 float hulls destroyed. One float damage beyond repair. I can't account for any, if there's any erosion damage. I'm sure there may be some. And that was mostly on the east side of the island. I did take a ride around the backside, but not able to see much of the shoreline there during the tide, so I'm not sure what issues may have been caused there, but those are what I had noticed, they're pretty evident and clear.
Yeah, I was sorry, I was slow in catching that. 8 piers
8 piers destroyed,
destroyed, 4 piers partially,
yeah,
4 floats
destroyed.
destroyed, and 1 damaged beyond
Yeah,
repair.
one foot in the repair.
How is it at your personal place?
We survived.
Good, good.
Onto the moorings, last year was the 3rd year of the renewals.
Yep.
That started, we do have a total of 207 moorings. They received received 130 mooring applications with the renewal fees. There's probably around 70, maybe not, 77, maybe 80 that did not receive renewal fees from. A lot of them not sure if they're still being used or people want to have them registered, but due to lack of current information, updated information, had difficulty contacting some of these people, so I'll make a better effort this year to try and contact them personally to see if there's something these moorings they still want to keep current, and, you know, inform them and just lead them to the renewal process on it, which I'm sure most everybody's been good about. It's just a courtesy more than anything else that we have the ordinance in effect now, that people do follow it, and everybody's been good, not much pushback. There's been a few, there's a couple that have refused to pay, but
And it's what, $10, I think it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's
not
a
a
lot.
huge amount.
not a huge amount, you know,
Yeah.
but that's, you know, that's their prerogative, I guess, they refuse to pay.
Ted, if there is a mooring that once upon a time was in existence and wasn't kept up, does it just sort of go away? Or is there like a spot that if somebody's not using it, opens for somebody else?
Well, most of the moorings in the island, you know, are all in front of residential properties. There are a few locations where associations are involved, they have a lot of moorings in place, so those would be potential, you know, issues if somebody, most of the moorings, that people think the moorings disappeared, the blocks are still on bottom, after
Right.
the top tack would disappear,
Right.
the block's still there. But,
Right,
you know, just they, you know, without anything be attached to it, I can't ping them with my Navionics app, which I'll go around again this year, and I'll re-ping everything. There's been quite a few new moorings since 2019 when they first did the original mapping. I'll update that, so it does open up spots if nobody's, you know, nobody's gonna reclaim that mooring and reestablish it.
okay, gotcha.
Is there a limit to the spots? Do we have? Does somebody have to abandon a mooring to?
You know, it really hasn't been an issue, because, again, most of the moorings are in front of people's houses. And the few places with association moorings, everybody seems to get along, everybody's aware of the moorings, and some people offered to give them up, hey, I'm done, I sold my boat. My moorings available, we try, and it's been a practice in the past that if somebody in the association like that spot, you can just simply allow them to register for that mooring in the location and not have to, you know, reserve it for somebody else down the road. There's usually seems to be somebody wanting that spot. And most people's in agreement, they're happy to let it move on to somebody within the association, so try and keep that process going without any conflict.
I just going, you said that some people have refused to pay, but they still have a mooring.
Yeah, they
Um,
just told me flat out, just on principle, whatever you wanna say, just, they don't wanna pay the $10.
So I think that's where we
Need to
should
talk about
note
this.
that
Yeah.
and discuss what we
Yeah,
need to do.
one place in particular is an association involved, and I just kind of caution, you know, per the ordinances, if you don't do the renewal, it'll be considered, you know, unregistered, and you could lose that, you know, that location. You know, it can be removed. There's a process for doing removals if they decide not, especially, that's the only concern I have, is some associations, if somebody wants a spot, and it's already limited, there's a spot there somebody's taking up, and they have no intention of paying that renewal fee, then it's kind of unfair to someone
Yep.
who needs a spot, has a boat, wants to use it, so I guess we'll address it on a case-by-case basis, but it caution when the process is you could lose, that location and the use of that spot.
It feels like there should be a further conversation at some point in time, not tonight, but to figure out what to do in those
Yeah, I'm
situations.
pretty sure the isolated case is very isolated, so.
Yep.
We hope maybe sometimes just the threat, I mean, some people, I'd say from my experiences, the mooring service provider, people tend to hang on to the moorings at the first born child. And then it's just amusing, it just never surprises me, so sometimes maybe the threat of losing that firstborn child, maybe they'll come
Mhm.
around.
Because it's not like it's an outrageous amount
No,
that
it's
we're
not.
asking.
It's the
but-
most reasonable anywhere.
Yep.
Beyond any doubt. So, yeah, that was my plan, I think, for 2024, as I mentioned, I'll update the spreadsheet along with the Dynamics app, make sure that it's on file at the town office for anybody to access. I am working on trying to secure some funding also for a water rescue craft for the fire department. And I've been in talks with Gay Wagner, and actually briefly with Dennis as well. And Gay seems to have an avenue for possibility of getting some grant funding, which she's working on. I've been in contact with Stacy, the fire chief, so we kind of have the process rolling along right now and getting the proper documents filed, so we'll see. I think I just spoke with Stacy last week, so he has some work he has to do updating, I guess, what fire departments registered with sam.gov. I guess there's a new registration process needs to be updated for them to apply for a funding grant. Was Gay was mentioned, it's a grant program through FEMA. It's called the Assistance for Firefighters Grant, so that's a program she thinks we should target to try to find some of that funding.
Well, and after what happened just this past week with people being stranded,
Yeah. It's a-
because I mentioned the boat the other day when we were talking to Jason, it's like, well, could we have used a boat to get those folks that were trapped between the two causeways? And they sort of laughed when I mentioned the boat, so I got the sense that maybe it wasn't quite functional or something.
Yeah, it's a little suspect. Actually, probably along the causeway, we're probably all right over the pavement.
Well, we'd have
I
to
wouldn't want
pump
to
it
venture
up.
too much further than that.
It's a little deflated now.
Yeah, I noticed that on one side, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, I guess what I should, that Gay even mentioned, maybe just make as a select board, this meeting, maybe just make a formal announcement that you're in agreement about us pursuing funding for this, because Jason Case, needs to, be made aware, which he already is anyhow, just Gay mentioned just formal announcements and people in agreement of accessing, trying to access funding for this would be helpful in the process.
We can certainly move, I can present, if that's okay with you two, to make, to move to encourage Ted and his team to look for grant opportunities. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
right,
Aye,
Very good, thank you.
there you go.
One more, I guess, back on the moorings, where last year was the first year of the renewal process. We did send out a notice. I think I'd sent something to April that she put out. I'd like to probably do another notice. I'll redraft it a little bit to be more reflective on now it's the current year, not a new process. And I'll send it to you, April, and you can share it with the selectmen and see if it needs your approval. I don't know if maybe you want to. Some towns also advertise a public notice in the paper as well. I'll let you decide if it's a worthwhile effort, other than maybe the Facebook, public Facebook page or the town Facebook page, maybe further reminder. But I'm open to suggestions of a better avenue for trying to make the public more aware of the renewals.
Ted, I was looking at the warrant items earlier today, and I noticed that we had said that, your stipend was gonna come out of what we collect. Is
Correct.
that,
Correct.
were you able to do that this year?
Yeah.
Good.
Last year collected $1,600 in fees, so. yeah,
Great.
it's more than enough.
Right, because I think we were sort of testing that out to see if that was gonna work out.
Yeah, it's not a lot above and beyond the stipend and the fees that are paid to the Harbor Master Association, but it covers it, so,
Perfect,
yeah.
perfect. That was one of the things we were asking about too.
Right,
is
yeah,
Make
going
sure that
forward.
you're okay.
Yeah, I think it's perfect. I mean, it self-funds the position, which is good.
Nice, nice. Do you two have? any-
Even with a few people not wanting to park $10. It should be a $30 late fee. Maybe that would encourage the $10.
Yeah.
And that's an idea. You know, we've done that with
You have an
other things,
unregistered
right?
barn, as you find, now you still owe $10.
Yeah.
You can afford the boat, you can afford $10.
Well, you know, you're preaching to the choir.
Yeah, does anybody in the audience have anything to add or ask of, Ted?
Are the mooring coordinates something that would be beneficial on the town's GIS tax map site? In other words, we could make a click on layer that would show
That would be great.
where the moorings are, and what the mooring identifier is.
Yeah, we have it with Avionics app, we could certainly do a layer on the town GIS as well. And there's probably extra cost involved with that. but You would have to lift it off the Avionics app that I have.
How would that be useful? How would people use that?
Well, they might find it useful if they're looking for a place to put a mooring to know where they are, existing ones are.
What does mean now, that means anybody can access it remotely from their home? Yeah. I think we adopted to keep it in-house, somebody come in here, someone in the office can bring up the mooring map and show it to them, they can click, they can
Oh,
hover over
okay.
the pins and they can see the name
Yeah,
or coordinates, but I thought we decided, I can't remember now, through the meetings that we had, that probably did not want to have that information.
And I think also it's, again, you have access, rights to a mooring off your property. So you've got the visual observation to know where the existing ones already are.
Ted, I have a question. You know, I've heard before that places like Booth Bay have just been overwhelmed and you have to wait years to get a mooring. Have we had anybody apply for mooring that hasn't been from the island? So I'm just wondering, like, at what point in time will they
Right.
sort of ease over
There were
this?
some in the past, nothing current. I went through the mooring registry from years past. There were some people from Wiscasset, Woolwich and Alma that had, you know, whether ever set it off, but they had a mooring application on file. One of them was even down in Brooks Cove.
Were they did not have property on the island?
You know, I've had two mooring requests for the ferry landing for the town mooring area.
Mhm.
So maybe a couple that show up there this coming year.
That's a very narrow area. It's got some pretty rough,
Yeah, it's pretty fast current, and you know,
yep,
I want to be in good shape, rolling back and forth.
yep, because I live right south of that. So, yeah,
It's
very,
not ideal, but I mean, I guess it's been reserved for that, for the purpose of people who do not have, you know, water access but desire, you know, to have a boat in the water, so. Haven't been encouraging it, but it is there, so
Yeah.
I just caution them about the characteristics of the area, and it's not ideal, and decisions ultimately theirs in the end. If they're gonna set, I you know, I tell them I'll pick the spot, I'll give them the GPS coordinates, so we can kind of keep control over it.
yeah, there's some rough water there.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions or comments? No? I know you probably want to go, and we have the RSU committee first to talk about. But I'm wondering if you're willing to stay, just because we are going to be talking about the ferry landing committee as well.
sure.
And I don't know, we might need your input,
Sure.
if you don't mind a few more minutes.
Oh, we can do that next.
Okay, we can do that too. Are you okay with that, Mary? Okay, I saw your head nod. All right, so the next committee then we'll talk about is Right Landing Committee. And Richard, you're the chair of that. Do you want to tell us, give us an
We
update?
left the floats in this year, but we had some very high tides. And then I checked back into what were the highest 10 tides over the past years. And they were all between December and March. Which to me says we should pull the float every fall. Because you know, potential for, you know, that very high tide, the chains that were holding the floats to the pilings almost came over the top of the pilings. And so I checked with E. Davies to see what it would cost to increase the height of them by about 3 feet. And it would be $640 for piling. So to me, to just, take them out during the winter time like we have been doing in the past is the right approach.
Then you
And-
wouldn't have to add 3 feet to the pipes, you're
Right.
thinking.
Because the sun, it doesn't happen during the summertime.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that, one of the things that I'm seeing is that the chains holding the floats to the pilings are rusting out because they're in the water all the time. And if they're out of the water for about half the year, they're not gonna rust out that much. But currently, I think we should replace all of the chains because they have rusted some. One of them for the first piling has parted because they've rusted out. My only question is with regards to that, should I go to somebody like Granger to get us a lower cost, or should we just keep it locally and go to Ace and get the chain that we need?
Good.
And I can just go ahead and give you what the, total length would be and how much it would cost from Ace and how much it would cost for Granger. And then you guys could decide what direction to take there.
I think we want to get quotes. I think we wanted to do that, just part of our procurement policy over a certain amount that's not nominal.
Yeah,
Let's get a couple of quotes, and document that so we've got that record. And then we could make more of an intelligent decision.
yeah. I will do that.
Do you think, there's no telling whether we'll have another tide like this, and you said between January or December and March is when the really high tides are. If there's already a chain broken, do you think that the floats will still hold this
I
winter?
think they will at this point.
Is there anything that needs to be done to make sure that it doesn't, break?
My only
Any further?
thing that I was thinking of was adding, I've got a piece of chain that I would add to the last piling.
The one that's furthest out
Yeah,
there?
the chain around that is very tight. So when it's going up and down, there's a 2x8 that's on the side of the float. And because it's been going up and down so much, that has worn out to about half of it because that chain has been so tight.
Yeah.
So I just thinking of I've got a short section of chain and I was just gonna attach that and loosen that up so much a bit, so it doesn't have that much strain on that piece of wood that's, being chafed away because of the strain.
Yeah, I was watching it last weekend and it was sort of scary to just, the way the surge was coming and
Yeah,
I was half expecting something to go floating away there. So yeah, if there's something that,
yeah, I'll go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
That'll relieve the stress on that one chain and because the other, the other two between the one that broke are in pretty good condition. And they've got a lot of slack, so putting more slack into the last one will help the situation somewhat.
Ted, you had a comment?
Yeah, Dick, do you look for a specific chain when you're trying to get chain?
What?
Do you look for a specific brand of chain you try and get chain?
No, I would just, normal chain, but whether or not we should try to get some American-made chain.
Yeah, I would recommend the American made, the PLS
Yeah.
ACO.
That was one of the things I was thinking
Long
about.
link. You
Yeah.
can work with Bath Industrial Sales sells a lot of that chain.
Oh, okay. I'll get a quote from them as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Cause I can just, come up with the total length that we need and.
Yep.
The shackles that we have are, still okay, so, we'll just go from there.
Yeah, because that's,
Thank you for that input.
Yes.
yeah. Any other thoughts about the floats themselves? While we have you there, Ted?
Dick's taking such good care of them down there, so low maintenance for anybody else. Usually on pile chain, sometimes to help save the chain, we do cut PVC pipe,
Yeah,
sleeve them a little bit with that, like 2 inches wide and fill them.
yeah, that's what's been on there, yeah.
That helps.
And I've got some of that PVC pipe to replace the ones that we lost on that first potting, so we can
Not
take
much
care
an
of
issue
that.
on the steel pipe, it was more for
Yeah,
the wooden piles, they tend to chain will dig in and fetch, but the steel is not as much of a problem.
yeah, that has worked pretty well. What's there right now?
So I think we're good with that. How, can you tell us a little bit about the committee? I know you mentioned something about adding a new person. I think it was Steve.
Yeah,
Rowley.
Steve Rowley across the road is willing to work with us. So he would be a good, person to add, because he'll be there year round.
Are you the only one that's there
15
right
years
now?
younger than I am, and
Yeah, yeah. Are you the only one right now who's there year round, who manages
yes,
the entire area there?
yeah. And he would be there year round as well, so.
Richard, I'm gonna be a pain and ask the question about succession planning. So one of the concerns is that we do pass on the knowledge and the expertise. And so if Steve is someone who can pick that up, but who else can you groom to
Well, I've been grooming Jeff Wheeler at the end of so he knows the process of pulling the floats. And, when we pull the floats this fall, Steve will, get that same knowledge.
is Jeff here in the wintertime?
Yes,
Okay, so he's also year round then,
yes,
okay.
but he travels a lot.
Uh-huh.
He's got a lot of locations he would go on his bucket list, like right now he's in Ireland.
So he's retired but enjoying life.
Right,
Got it.
I wish I were him.
Mhm. So, go ahead.
I think that's one, just thinking as we look at the committees and we'd like to make sure that there's gonna be a refresh
Yeah,
of some of the members, and that you have the support that you need when you've got a big projects.
yeah.
Because
And
the
the thing
ferry line,
about Steve is he's willing to, when Craig gets back from being in Florida, he's willing to, help him mow the lawn and take some of that load off of him, and he's willing to do that, so,
you've had a great team of people, but it seemed like most of them were summer people.
yeah. Yeah, right now, there's 3 of us that are on the island, but, Steve is a new one that's especially valuable to the committee.
And he lives right there, so he can,
Right.
yeah, so
That's
that,
great.
Lives
yeah,
across the road,
Yeah.
yeah, I met him, Saturday when I was down there.
yeah,
So it feels like we have the floats taken care of. So I want to talk about the house, and I know you were talking about the roof, and I know we now have sandbags hopefully they're
Yeah.
still there. And there wasn't too much damage there, right?
no, in fact, the water that seeped in 2 days, it was all evaporated, so it was all gone.
Yeah, because,
So we're just
Yeah.
a small amount of seepage that came through the door.
yeah, I was
so
there
the-
till after high tide, and
Yeah.
we had opened the door and saw just and it looks like it was concrete floors, so
Yeah,
my hope was that there was no
Yeah.
real damage there, but it was pretty scary that,
how high it got.
yeah, because I was there an hour before high tide, and it was, I put the bricks there
Yeah.
and a bag of sand, and, because that's all I had, and it was like just watching it, and not a darn thing you could do. And just
Yeah,
hoping
Mike and
that,
Tyler saved the day with about 10 bags of sand, so.
Yeah, he came afterwards, yeah, and I know he stuffed everything there, so at least, I don't know how long it's gonna stay there, but, or I'm hoping that you'll at least keep those bags there, and the
Yeah.
next time we have any kind of storm,
Yeah,
you can,
yeah, we just took
Better to be
the
safe.
cost of that out of the petty cash from Helping Hands, so.
well, he
Yeah,
gave us, Mike gave us the invoice to pay,
Oh, okay,
yeah. Yeah, so, I gave that to Ashley, so
Yeah.
he gave that to me Saturday.
okay,
So hopefully that's covered and, you know, the only thing we can do is if that happens again, is again, put the sandbags there.
yeah,
But I also know that you were gonna work on a roof and that's, you said wasn't gonna happen till spring, but
Yeah.
are you working on getting, different quotes for that
yeah, I
now?
wanna get 3 quotes for
Okay.
that and see what
Okay.
what we find.
All right, so you haven't done that yet, but you're gonna work on that.
I'm working on
Yep.
that, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Anything else that you want to share about the committee or just your work in general or how you feel things are going?
I think
Um,
things are going well. You know, one of the things we haven't done is taken those trees out of there yet, but, you know, there's no real, they're down. There's no real rush. We might as well wait. till
There's
it
a
gets
bunch of
little
other
warmer.
crap there now anyway. I tried to walk around when the water was coming in and I went around that way for just a second or tried to, and it was like between all the crap that was coming up, you know, big logs, and then there's a log on either side of,
Yeah, the 2
Shed.
trees sort of came down like this.
yeah, yeah. How will you handle that, the trees coming down? Is that something that your committee will do, or are you gonna
Yes.
need, okay,
And Mike has the chipper, and what we'll just do is put everything through the chipper and put it out on the point.
good. We might actually wanna use some of that, mulch for the gardens, so when you get ready to chip, let us know.
Okay, well, it'll probably just be in a pile.
Yeah,
Maybe actually, it's made me think that we have, back where the chips are, there's an old picnic bench. And I know we have a picnic bench out on the pier area, or do have during the summertime.
it was there, yeah,
Now, okay,
Yep.
but that's one thing I think we want to look at maybe replacing, because the one that's there by the house is really not usable.
Yeah, it's got a few things. We were thinking of just, you know, replacing some of the rotted planks,
Yeah,
and it would probably be okay. But, you know, that's a summer project.
yeah, I'm not saying for now, just looking at planning, something so we, again, make it comfortable for folks to be able to use
Yeah,
the ferry landing. It's just been kept beautifully. But if you want someplace to sit, it's not as easy.
the one at the end of the pier actually looked quite good, I was
Okay,
there and.
well, it's the newest one, I think.
Yeah, yeah, but
yeah,
it,
that's a brand new one.
yeah, but it looked good, it looked good, yep, yep. Anything from anybody else? Does anybody else have a question or comment for Richard? No, all right, that was all I needed, you can go. If you want, but you're,
Maybe I wanna stay there.
we'd love for you to stay, there are cookies in the back. All right, we're gonna go to the next, and sorry about you, Mary, you don't get any. Our next committee is the RSU committee, and we have both Mary Coventry and Richard DeFries, who are our two directors representing the island. So as soon as he leaves, we'll get that started, and I don't know if Mary or Richard, which one?
Well, one
of
of
you
the
wants to-
things I want to start out with is that we now have cameras on the bus.
Oh, wow.
And, so April should probably, until the school year is out, in her monthly blog, just say that, you know, your first conviction of passing a stopped school bus is $311.
Mm.
And the
Yeah.
second conviction is $300, plus you have a 30-day suspension on your license. So it's, you know, I don't know that we've had any problems, but I think the public should know, should know that we have those cameras now.
Mhm.
And, you know, the sheriff and the judge, when they see the camera, I don't think is gonna say, oh, well, that was an error. Hand over $311 or hand over $311 in your license, so I think it would be good just to let the public know.
Yep,
Yeah.
And this is buses running on Westport. Buses running on Westport.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've got this information here for you too, so.
Yeah, thank you. I will.
Well,
The,
it's RSU buses, isn't it? No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, no matter what.
Yeah.
But,
And the school in the superintendent's report in January, so this most recent superintendent's report, so that's on, that's in the board materials and it's publicly available and it's a wonderful report. Details what Richard just summarized, which is stop for RSU 12 school buses and of course the 15-mile-an-hour school zones, but it details the penalties and of course, and earlier in October, so school safety, school bus is very important, and likewise in the superintendent's report in the October issue was National School Bus Safety Week, which was really quite nice. And it had some safety tips for families and students on getting ready for school and walking to the bus stop and at the bus stop and getting on and off the bus. So that was also helpful for students and families.
So Mary, did each family member get a copy of that?
Well, it's accessible to them through the board package and the website. And
What is
that, yeah, that's where, and of course it came into the town office. Now, what else they did?
Access that.
Yeah, to publish that, I could look that up and look back with Howie on how else he did communicate with the families on that. Richard, I don't know if you happen to know.
and one of the things that happens every month is the superintendent's report and the agenda for the upcoming meeting and the minutes for the previous meeting all come to this office. So you're getting that every month. Presently we have 56 students on this island. They go to 16 different schools. And 13 of those students go to the Wiscasset schools. And of those 56 students, because we also bring a bus over to Edgecombe, 26 of those students are bused. The other 30 are, the parents have to bus them. We've been trying to get Damascotta CSD to come over to the Edgecombe school and pick up the CSD students, but they have been unwilling to do that, so we haven't had much success with that, but we're doing our best to make that a reality for as many as possible, but we have school choice, so if parents want to send them to Timbuktu, they can. So
Richard, did you bring copies of the student count by school for the select board? If not, I can send them the recent one
I have
today
that,
to them.
I
Yeah,
have that, and I'll give that to them.
Perfect, thank
yes.
you.
Yeah, I think it's we thought that perhaps it would be helpful background just so you could see our students in our schools and in particular, so for information for where our students are going, and then that also gives you some background as in the, you know, somewhere between March and April, we start talking about and looking at the budget in a little bit more detail on the school. So we thought that would be just helpful background for you today.
It is, Mary, and what's been interesting is for another committee I'm on, we've been trying to look at, you know, the number of kids that we have, and we, at that time, I knew there were 12 different schools, and which makes it really hard. It's like, how do kids get to know each other if, you know, we have 56 kids that are here on this island, but yet they don't even go to the same school or ride the same school bus. So how do you help kids, you know, connect? And that's been a challenge. And now for you to say there's 16 different schools, that's even a bigger challenge. Because that's not many kids typically going all in the same place. And I
Right,
know that's,
those 16 schools are also encompass, you know, high school and elementary. That's the total, so. But anyway, yep, point taken.
yeah, it's just, it's a challenge, you know, and again, that age range too. It's not like 56 kids that are all around the same age. They're
Yeah,
a variety of ages.
Yep.
Do you have broken down, like how many kids are gonna graduate this year?
well, there'll be 4 to graduate this year, but there's currently 21 in high schools out of the 56.
Wow.
And if you look at the first 4 grades of that are presently going, you've got 16.
16, like pre-K to 3?
Yeah, K, pre-K through 3rd grade,
Is how many, 16?
through 2nd grade, actually,
Second.
those 4 years. So you're looking,
15.
probably will be, you know, going down some more. But, you know, the other thing is, you know, people are learning that if they come to Wiscasset, they've got school choice. So if they don't like where their kids are going right now, they could move to Westport Island because it's school choice.
And I know that's happened in other towns.
Yeah,
Yeah. How are things going? You know, I just read, the other day about the challenges of this next year's budget coming up. But how are you two feeling as far as how this year went? Any special issues or any concerns, especially for us here on Westport?
well, you know, budget wise, it's always a problem because you're looking at so many students going to other schools, which from the R212 point of view, we have no control.
Right.
You know, and all of the high school students are going to other schools other than RSU 12 schools. So that's a big part of the budget when you're looking at trying to control costs. And, you know, there's so much of that we have absolutely no control of. So when you start looking at where you can cut costs to, you know, make sure the budget will get passed, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, I saw some of Howie's quotes and it's like there's just nothing he could do to, seem like every time he was trying to bring down the budget, something else would happen and.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
so last year, he identified them in the budget as some of the uncontrollable costs. So he articulated what was controllable and what was uncontrollable. And so looking at some of that information that's coming in and the budget that's, you know, in process as we speak.
one of the things about, you know, Mary and I, both of us are on the finance committee, so we have a big input on the call. Because, you know, the board basically accepts whatever the finance committee recommends. So it's we have some good input there.
Great, great. We appreciate the work that you do. Any other thoughts or comments or anything that you want to make sure that we share? I know in in March, early March, I think it is, when Howie will be here for his yearly, yeah, 18th, I think.
Yes.
Come for his yearly presentation, but we wanted to just hear from you two and see how things were working and let you know we support you.
Thank you.
so much. And thank you for all your support when it's been asked for in the past. We appreciate that. The select board has been very good. And if there's something that you think about that you might like to see or that we can address, any questions that you have in the upcoming budget presentation or any part of that, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we have two staff that have little ones, so they're really into school, so.
Cause this is an
That's,
updated
that's,
student.
so this chart for Westport Island is, just so you know, again, if you ever wanted to look at it, is in that superintendent's report that comes in the monthly package. So
Yeah, this is the
that may be
total report.
helpful to you if you ever wanted to look at it.
Do you guys get that, or do I just get it?
You get it,
You get it.
and in the past, we've had, I think, had to ask for a copy, but you're the one who gets it.
I'll forward them to you when I get them. I always post the notice in the kiosks. I don't usually read through the whole thing though, 'cause it's a lot of pages. I'll
Yeah,
forward
but
it
if
to
you send it to us, you're just, yeah, give us a link or something.
Mhm.
Thank you very, very much, both Mary and Richard. Thank
Thank
you.
you
You're
for
welcome.
the opportunity. Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna move along here, and it's not a committee report, but we have a stakeholders meeting coming up. And Dennis, you were gracious enough to be willing to come and talk to us.
Yeah, we do. We have a meeting coming up Wednesday at 6 at the old town hall. Pardon my voice, I got a problem with vocal cord right now. But anyway, we will have Jamie Wallace from Wright Pierce. And we'll have Ruth Indrick from the Land Trust to talk about wetland restoration work. And the purpose of the meeting is to, first off, communicate to the stakeholders, particularly those that are in the vicinity. We've written to every property owner on West Shore Road between the causeways and every property owner abutting Swan Creek and Hill Pond. So the focus initially with this meeting is to communicate to them what the risks are, what we're doing about it from a study perspective, and get their feedback on the approach we're taking and have a dialogue about that. So that'll be Wednesday night. And the first portion of this study is focusing on the 3 vulnerable causeways that we so dearly love after this past storm. And but the second part of it is going to be looking at all of the parcels around the perimeter of the island. We have 37 miles of shoreline, we stretched it all the way out, and hundreds of parcels and hundreds of homes. And we're gonna be looking at each one of those relative to predicted sea level rise by 2100 and storm surge. So we can identify for the property owners where they might be at risk on a confidential basis. We're not gonna publicize that, but confidentially, let them know. And I'm already starting to get feedback because there are probably 4 or 5 private roads that are gonna be subject to inundation. One was, that I just got contacted this week was Oak Point Road, which is all of about 2 feet above sea level.
Well, that's the first one popped into my head.
And what I've asked the planning board to help with is, these property owners are gonna really be struggling with how do they go about getting a permit to raise the elevation of a private road that's in the shoreland zone, and that would probably be violating every rule that we have, proximity to the water, et cetera, et cetera. So what I would hope that we can do, and I'll get help from the planning board on this, is see if we can put together a little crib sheet for property owners to say, these are the things you're gonna have to deal with. It's not gonna be straightforward.
It's interesting.
That's the second part of the study, and we will be, like I say, confidentially presenting to affected property owners what the risks are and provide any guidance we can on how they might mitigate the risks.
Curiosity question, Dennis, and I know you took pictures and you've been sending them to Ruth, and I know we've applied for a grant and whatnot, but based on last week's 2 storms, has any of the thinking changed, or does it feel more, one, are we more likely to get a grant or support based on what happened? 'Cause it feels like it's no longer in the future.
It's no longer in the future, and it's limited by available funds. It turns out the follow-on grant to this small study that has the most promise is the grant with NOAA,
With when Ruth was here.
when Ruth was here,
Yep.
and that we participated in.
Yep.
Which is about a $3 million request for the 2 Squam Creek causeways, the main causeway at the dike and the one crossing at Post Office Road. Those we applied for because they have the most promise for wetland restoration. And even that's gonna be a sell, because I think there are gonna be pushbacks on going back to the way we were in the 50s and earlier. And perhaps rightly so, so that's gonna be a debate, that's what the stakeholders meeting is gonna be, trying to flush out
Right.
how people feel about that. But without the restoration part, the chances of the NOAA grant coming to pass are pretty slim,
Yeah.
because they're doing it for that purpose.
Exactly.
I've checked with sources at the state, and the state has ample money for state roads. But when it comes to town-owned roads, not so much. The biggest grant I could find was $125,000. That's not gonna do much good.
Doesn't even put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Richard?
Interesting.
And one of the things I have with regards to this is, how much of the knowledge is there about storm surge? I was looking at the tide coming up for that Wednesday storm. And up until about an hour and a half, it looked like it was just gonna be the high tide. But between like 11 and 1:30, that storm surge came in at almost 4 feet.
Yeah,
You know, and so-
3.2 feet was the estimate of the storm surge. And that was not a statistically high storm surge, it just happened to be right at high tide.
Yeah,
And that was not a statistically high tide. A king tide is 12 feet. This tide was 11.3.
yeah,
So it could be much worse. The highest storm surge that has been recorded is 4.7 feet, measured in 1907. Measured in Portland, I can't remember the date for sure. But that's the highest. So if you had the 4.7 foot storm surge on a king tide of 12 feet, you're several feet above
yeah,
what we had.
because the way I measured it,
So
the
you
storm surge was at least 3.5 to 4 feet.
Yeah, it's about 3, yeah. And
As a line.
that's not including any sea level rise,
Right,
which is gonna be on top of all of that.
well, I was tracking the sea level rise, and the sea level rise was pretty much along the lines of what was being forecasted, okay? And then the last hour and a half, that storm surge came in, and it was somewhere between 3.5 and 4 feet in an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, you get some amplification as you get narrower down towards your island, so it could be 4 feet there.
Yeah,
So anyway, the state guidelines for our project are, by the year 2100, the state is saying, plan for 4 foot of sea level rise. Plan for the 4.7 or 4.8 storm surge. And add 1 foot of freeboard So that with the combination of those things, you will exceed the surface of the road.
That
Then we
brings
better
up
move
quite a
the
bit.
Right house.
Yes, we, a long ways too.
But
Yeah,
that's
that's way
long
too.
beyond where I'll be alive, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, yeah. What do you need for Wednesday? Do you need, one of the things, just to let you know, is right now there is no internet there. Do you need that?
No, we did have a request for Zoom coverage. And we said that we didn't think that the internet capability would be available. So I promised to send copies of the charts and talk on the phone, but yeah, no internet, that's fine. All I need is somebody to unlock the room and turn the heat on for me.
We'll do that for you. Among the three of us, we'll figure it out.
Do you want to record the session? Again, we can do a cell phone recording.
If anybody wants to tackle that, yeah, that would be great. That would be great.
We can talk about this and let you know, but,
Yeah, if you want to record it, that would be good. It might be good to have it documented.
I think.
Well, I think so, if we can, that's relatively easy to do.
And just, to be a naysayer, negative, but in case the weather isn't so great, because it does sound like we might have some icy roads. Do we have a strategy in place to let people know if it's gonna be canceled or postponed? I don't want people
I don't
coming
plan
here.
to
and-
cancel it.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have to.
We're
Most-
Mainers, right? We're Mainers.
Exactly, but you have, Ruth who's coming from away, and I don't know where Jamie's coming from, but if you have those guest speakers coming from someplace else, they might have a challenge, or, we can talk about this on email or whatever,
Sure.
but I think, people may be asking even, that people are planning to come and they may be wondering, it's like, are we gonna have this or not, or how do I find out? Do you
Yeah,
have
I
any
checked the
thoughts?
weather before I came to the meeting here, and they're talking about 2 to 3 inches during the early part of Wednesday, and then it'll taper off and possibly change over to rain later.
Right, that's my fear, right there. It's the rain that's, because it's gonna be freezing. Yeah,
I'd
Any
like to be
thoughts,
there,
April,
but
on
I
what we
can't
might-
guarantee
how we
with
might-
a report like that, that I'll be there.
Well,
Oh, you might be doing duty.
Right, but I would plan on coming, because
Yeah.
I feel I may have answers for somebody or
Absolutely.
something to add.
Absolutely. To
Just
say
do the
nothing of
usual.
firsthand experience.
Well, I watched it from
Facebook.
this far below the road
Send an
to this
email.
far over the road, back to this
Yeah.
far below the road.
That's pretty much it.
Saturday.
Dennis, do you have a list of people who are gonna attend that you know of?
No.
Just pretty much a
Whoever
vote.
shows up.
Yeah, because you said you had sent out
I
invitations.
did send out a letter to,
Yeah.
like I say, every property owner between the causeways
Yeah.
and abutting the ponds. And I just wanted to formally make sure that they were notified.
Well, April can post something on Facebook if, if it looks like all of a sudden, it's not gonna go.
That's the only mechanism I would have is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do
It is
Facebook,
winter
I'll
in
do-
May.
We could put the flyer up on the door, leave the light on, exterior light on in the town hall, so if anyone shows up, just let them know what happened. Jeff, are you gonna unlock and turn the heat on?
Yeah, I can make sure we do.
Okay.
Good.
I'm the closest.
All right, and you're gonna be around that day.
Yeah, I want to do the session, so.
Yeah, I do too.
But in case, I can get it ready, so it'll be there. And I can set up, I think, to do the cell phone recording as well.
I can't be there, I'd love to hear it. so.
Yeah, I'm gonna miss my class just to
Yeah, I
come to
think
see
it's
you.
gonna be enlightening.
Yes,
To see what people's
right.
pulse is on this.
Right.
I think, I know a few people that when you start talking wetland restoration in those particular areas, and I would be very, very upset if I was a property owner. But that remains to be seen.
We're happy, we're like, bring it on, come on, we want waterfront property, put a boat in right there, it'd be great.
The hole that keeps showing up on I don't think will be showing up again, but there was water actually coming up through that hole,
Wow.
Geyser.
yeah.
This is
Wow.
On
on
Heels?
Heel or at the, okay.
Yeah, remember that
The-
hole
the
that I
great
had?
big-
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, that was, you know, as the water was. But I feel better about it now than I did before the storm, as far as going through or anything, you know? But
Well, hold your thought and just let me ask, is anything else to add to your comments or what? Not, if not, then we're gonna go ahead to our next agenda item, which is roads. Okay, continue.
it was very interesting to sit there and watch the tide come in. I got down there at about 10:30. Tide was down.
Was this Wednesday or
This
Saturday?
was Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Wednesday, I was down there and me and Jeff removed, I don't know, a cord of wood and a cord of seaweed.
Quite a bit, would have been some good firewood there.
Come
There
on.
was a substantial amount of debris on the causeway. Oh, yeah, big stuff too, you know, so we cut it all up and we stacked it to the north side of the causeway. Get the road open. Saturday, I got down there about 10:30, the debris was still there. And the tide started coming. Gary, my cousin, former road commissioner, pulled in behind me. I sat with him for 2 or 3 hours. And we watched the water come up and over the road. This is at Heels Cove. The fire department was up the other one. The water go over the road. And then we watched the water go over the rocks on the edges of the road. So that tells me it must have been at least a foot and a half over the causeway.
Oh, yeah, wow.
And then we, you know, we watched it start chewing out the road and then watched the tide recede and looked at the devastation when it was done. And all the debris that we'd stacked there was now up in the very north end of the pond there. So that lifted, some of that wood was, right, Jeff?
It was pretty big, yeah,
Lifted it up over the rocks and
yeah.
pushed it to the north. So both causeways sustained I'm gonna call it minor damage. 80 yards of gravel we put in there and 32 yards of 6 to 8 inch rock along the edges. The worst part of the whole thing for me was going from Saturday afternoon to Sunday morning, knowing that there was a very sketchy 7-foot wide path across Heels Cove causeway to get to Davies and everybody on the other side, Connie's house, everybody over there. I didn't want to block it completely off. I probably should have, but I couldn't leave them people stranded overnight. And Davies drove his, whatever he was driving across it, so I did cone it off, so the upper causeway was impassable. We dumped a load of gravel across the end of it Saturday, so people wouldn't throw barricades out of the way and try and be, you know. We came out of it fine. Of course, there's no pavement on them areas now, which prevents, when the water does go across, prevents it from washing out. We can address that this summer. There wasn't much of pavement there anyway, but it did undermine Heels Cove. It undermined the hot top enough that down to Heels Cove, we had to bust it up and cave it in, which gave us kind of a base there, so it won't, the fines won't keep.
Flowing through, yeah.
So, the 2 culverts at Doggett Road, I took the lobster traps out. Water was flowing freely through them 15-inch culverts. And they are nowhere near enough capacity to handle the water that was flowing, because it was going over the road. And we had to patch that in as well with some of that same 32 yards of 6 to 8 inch rock. That's a sore subject, not a sore subject, but anyway.
Jim, I have a question for you. I hadn't thought about that because we had a conversation Thursday and are trying to work to get like a
Phone chain.
a phone chain for those folks that are between the two causeways, and I'm working on that
That would be good.
with Jason, but I hadn't thought about your area. And actually, if that water didn't recede, you would have Haskell Road and Doggett Road and Castle Lane and all those roads that would be, they would be stranded as well, because there is no other egress. I hadn't thought about that.
Fortunately, that's such a wide area. The way the water goes off, the water never gets real deep.
Good.
I don't wanna entice anybody to drive across the flooded road. I will not do that. But there will be ways to service anybody that needs 911 or anything on
Yep.
that side of, on Doggy Road. The causeways, not so much.
Right,
And, you know, these sleepless nights like that, because I just, I don't like leaving people stranded.
mhm,
And I don't like people not knowing that they're stranded.
exactly. Yeah,
Uh,
that's even worse.
That's,
Yeah,
right, so there should be some way. So I'm glad you're on top of that. 'Cause
Yeah,
I feel that's very important.
mhm,
The Freus's and there's a lot of people over there that are away for the winter, I guess. I don't know, there's a lot of people over there I don't know. I talked to Davies, I talked to Bill Miller. Those are the only two contacts I really have on that side of those causeways. But I did stay in contact with both of them.
yeah, and I contacted Nancy and also Connie. Unfortunately, Connie was gone,
Right,
but I didn't have Bill's contact information. I'm working on getting that.
yeah, I got his number.
Okay, is that, he and his daughter. And then Mike Munchmore wasn't there either, and Ann. So, you know, there were very few people there, but those few people didn't necessarily know that
Right.
it'd gone one way and it'd been trapped, and, you know, not knowing which side was open, if either side was open.
Right, and if they're in a crisis and they see, you know, I just don't want anybody doing something foolish because they're in a crisis. So communication is key.
Yep.
The fire department watched the upper causeway. Jason was great. Jason took all the pictures that he feels we need. We worked collaboratively and everything went well. And I think the damage compared to a lot of towns around is minimal.
Yeah, we were lucky.
But it's, you know, this is not gonna get better as we go along. As Dennis says, you know, I've never seen that much water over either of them causeways in over 50 years. So,
Did, in your conversation with Gary, did he indicate that he'd seen anything like that before?
no, his comment was, well, nothing like this ever happened when I was around. And we all got a good chuckle out of it. So it was good. No, he seemed same as me, he seen debris on the causeways, but never, and water right up to the top, but never like that.
In the history committee, we found some wonderful old pictures of what was there before the gravel filled causeway was there. And it was basically a bridge on pilings.
I see the picture, Jeff showed me the picture, and I found that very interesting.
So I was actually trying to get a hold of Gary to see if he would remember, but do you know when that causeway was put in?
50s is all I've heard.
50s, okay, that's,
And, you know, so Gary, you know, I think he was like 56 or something, you know, so he wouldn't remember any of that stuff either.
yeah.
You gotta ask somebody older than us, I guess. That'd be long distance.
Where you look at the new road that they're putting in there in Woolwich, and it got washed out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be high enough,
Their office trailer was, the water was right up on it.
yeah,
And before they started putting that in, think about how low that road was.
amen.
I mean, it was really low. I don't know why they rebuilt it and built it so low. Cause they had to put signs up that said, be careful at high tide, it might flood. It's like, why did you make the road so
I
low?
think they're doing something there too. Kelt is working with that place also. I
They're
believe.
trying to restore
Working on the
the
wetlands part.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
But I thought the road was gonna be higher than it is now.
and maybe next time they start working on it
I
again.
hope they, I hope they pay
all
attention.
that material they just did.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
I thought, that would, leaving that material there would make the hill better in the winter and stuff.
Yeah,
And that was there for weight because
just wait.
they bored them holes and put that mortar in all them holes. And
Yeah.
like they did the wave level, kind of the same thing. They put that in there for weight. And now they're digging it back out. It's not all at once. I know the fellow that bought the material. And he's taking like 10,000 yards out right now, and then in February, sometime in February, he could take another 10,000. So there goes, it's like, geez, that hill won't be that bad, well, now, this just seems foolish to me.
It does, it does.
Probably a good thing that this happened before they finished the
They should have started here and went
Yeah.
right straight across to the
Exactly.
bridge. That would
Yeah.
make no sense to
Yeah,
me.
just continue on as a bridge. Yeah, makes no sense. All right, any other comments on the roads?
Yeah, yes, the plowing, I feel, I've been around a lot this weekend, I was here, there and everywhere. I think our roads are in good shape, I think Dale's been doing a good job. We need to discuss the sand and salt budget. Why they was ever created separately is a mystery to me. I don't know why you would do that. Because there's $24,000 left in the sand budget. There's $2,000 left in the salt budget, and I need Dale wants a load of salt.
We can cover, so that's, that,
I know it could be, it's one of them accounts that we can overspend, but I don't want anybody getting any sticker shock.
but it goes back to estimates and how we plan on doing the work, so that was based upon the approaches we've used in the past.
Right,
And so different team,
yep, I
Change
take
that.
responsibility, I kind of stuck with the status quo when we did the budget. I think next year we ought to combine them two into one.
Yep, we can certainly talk about that,
We
yeah.
do need a load of salt. He's using a little more modern techniques, I will say. Less sand, a little more salt. Because people want bare roads, and that's the only one, with these temperatures that we got, it's the only way you're gonna get them. It saves on maintenance, because the sand buildup on the sides of the
Yeah.
road is an issue everywhere down here. Sanding and salting is all about timing. It isn't necessarily about how much you use, it's about timing. I had poor timing myself that last storm and didn't get salt down quick enough, so I ended up with hard packed ice. And the salt had to melt down through it rather than already being there. I should have salted after the first round of plowing, because after the first round, it iced right over. Dale got it down early, and his roads ended up better than mine.
Oh.
So, I don't want people being alarmed that we're just, spreading salt around like crazy. It doesn't take, if you get it down early, it doesn't take a lot to keep that stuff from sticking to the road. And if it doesn't stick to the road, it clears off quicker, and then, you get bare roads quicker.
Jim, was there any discussion between the amount of salt that the island can handle without getting into wells and?
Well, that's a concern, that's why we've never, practice has been old school.
Well, I noticed, the roads are a little better this time, but I think he used a lot more salt than Gary did.
I'm sure of it, because he's putting down some straight salt in the beginning.
Yeah, he didn't, they're on my place now. But I was just wondering, I remember years and years ago, there was a big discussion about
It is a concern,
not using hardly any salt, because I get it done well, a lot of people get it done very well.
We all
it
do.
is a concern, even in artesian well, Gary, I mean,
back when Ronnie was doing, the road work, the plowing, there was concern about a significant increase in the amount of salt we used. It became an issue.
Yeah.
So we formed a groundwater protection committee to study, we sampled wells all along the main road to see if we could find any pattern of increase.
Yeah.
We didn't find anything.
Good thing, I guess.
It's
Yeah.
you know, if we had an outside sand pile, salt pile, I'd be more concerned with that
Right.
concentration.
Hmm.
I get, you know, it isn't like I completely ignore that or discount that, because I do think, you know, that could become an issue.
And it's tough, whatever decision you make.
Oh,
You know, you got the phone ringing. Let's put it this way, my phone rings a lot more, people saying, there's a 6-inch patch of ice out in front of my house, and I think I got salt in my well. But I do know somebody that had salt in their well.
On the main road?
No, this is from a concentration of salt.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, well, some folks do.
From a concentration of salt.
Yes.
Downhill from Ronnie's salt pile.
Yeah.
So, Gary, I hear you loud and clear, and I'm kind of,
well, I just, thought there was maybe some more studies done on it.
no, but I think,
Not for you,
no, but I'm glad it's in the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, we monitored it for several years and there was no discernible
The,
amount measured.
the state,
that's good.
the state, their statement is that a reasonable amount of salt, but you're using it sparingly, you're not, dumping it, and it's not mixed into the sand, which, because you're putting salt in the sand too. But they think it's more effective and less destructive, less on the long haul, to use some salt, straight salt well than otherwise. But that's the DOT.
Coming from an outfit that uses hundreds of thousands of tons a year. So,
Yeah.
and look at your vehicle in 10 years and you can say that's the DOT policy.
Canadian beet juice.
That is that would be ideal. Unfortunately, it's cost prohibitive. Cause that stuff will work at any temperature.
Really?
What is that, beet
Beet
juice?
juice,
Beet juice, believe it or not.
it's the sugars in the beet juice. They use it in really, really cold climates, cause here, salt only works till about 23 degrees, 22 effectively. And that's when they use the liquid calcium.
Mhm.
That gets you down into the teens. And then they go to the magnesium chloride, which is corrosive even when it's dry. That's the voodoo stuff. But in the temperatures we've had, you can bet there's magnesium chloride been dumped on Route 1, guaranteed. And that stuff is that's corrosive even when it's dry, so that'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But beet juice does, it works down, it's endless. How well it'll work.
New cash crop at Tarbox Farm, I said.
I was thinking the same thing, we need to talk to Kyle.
The cost is in the process.
I've had
Doesn't
beet
make that
corn,
much.
it's sketchy, but it's all right.
You had a comment to make?
No, that was the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or thought about roads? Thank you very much. I mean, I saw you Sunday morning and the fact that, this is a weekend and, Sunday morning you were out there and, doing,
Oh, fixing the causeways, yeah.
Yeah. it just, it's not like, oh, it's a weekend, I'm not working this weekend.
I couldn't handle 2 nights not sleeping, knowing people could have issues over there, and I had to get them open
Yeah.
and safe,
And I saw Dale yesterday, but I also told him, I think he's doing a great job, being on Facebook and letting people know what he's doing, because I feel like communication is so important, and if people at least know he's out there, he's trying to do something that, that really helps a lot.
He's very conscientious, and I
Yeah.
give him a lot of credit, because he has been on it.
Yeah,
He's had some difficulties, he had to go get a sander chain goes in the sander, and it's, you know, it's an expensive item. And I sent him to Limerick, cause I know that guy down there has everything, so a trip to Limerick, spend $1,000 to get, you know, one truck back in service, he was all over it.
Yeah, he definitely cares about this island and, you know.
He's constantly asking me, you know, I see him well, we all see him yesterday.
Yep. Great. All right, let's move on to correspondence. And Jeff, do you want to talk just briefly about the Regional Planning Commission's issues about housing?
Sure, just, we got a communication from the Regional Planning Commission on housing. They, using a consultant who did their housing study for them last year. Now that consulting is helping them plan for where there might be opportunities for affordable housing in the county. They identified, I think, 7 lots on Westport Island that they said will might be acceptable or appropriate for affordable housing. Unfortunately, I asked them, what does that mean? Are we talking about apartment buildings? We're talking about single family homes? And I haven't got anything back, so I don't know. So that there's more to come, I guess, but from the county standpoint, they're trying to find a way to get more affordable housing. The commissioners actually have allocated money to help developers develop affordable housing. Because that has been one of the biggest issues for businesses, as well as anybody wanting a place to live in this area. So more to come. Maybe I'll know more in 2 weeks. You're gonna talk about Rich?
Yeah, but I just realized, yeah, that's actually under admin items. I wanted to go up one, I forgot one of the committees to report on is the ordinance committee. So Lisa, want to give an update on that?
I'll do it quickly, yes. We met, I think it was a couple weeks ago. We're meeting again this coming Tuesday, the 30th, tomorrow, next week, 30th. And we made some progress in terms of the junkyard ordinance has now switched to nuisances, which are gonna be inserted into the building code ordinance, which hopefully we change to be called the land use ordinance. So to simplify things, there was a bit of an overlap between the junkyard ordinance and, I'm sorry, the nuisance ordinance and what was already in our building code ordinance. So we've just teased out some of the specific things, and so we're gonna be working on that next week. Gary was gonna work on the language that goes into the ordinance that's gonna reflect the change to the building permit that we made, requiring that there be a sign off when footings are placed before any work can continue. So he has to do the wording for that. I'm looking into the possibility of an ordinance regarding dogs. Because there's an issue with, we're contracted with Lincoln County and the animal control officer there. And every time he comes out, we're charged money for that. So there is a way to recoup some of that money and some from owners, but we have to have an ordinance for it. So I'm looking into that. So we're moving along. So hopefully, and then we're also going to be discussing our schedule going forward with these ordinances and, you know, our timeline for when we have to get certain aspects done before the town meeting. So
A lot of work.
yeah, I know. And then we have the LD 2003 too, which John was working on, but I'm not sure where they are with that. So we have to kind of push with that a little bit also, because that's a big one. Yeah. That's it.
The one other item under correspondence, I know I'm bouncing around just a little bit, but I'd forgotten about the ordinance. Was also some correspondence around some issues with franchise. With Spectrum.
You're talking about Spectrum
Yeah,
and internet access.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe this is more of a reminder for people who live in the area, more the north end of the island, middle of the island, near the main road, that have had access to Spectrum for cable TV. Some people in that area never got Spectrum service because they were too far away from the main road. It was gonna cost them too much. Spectrum, when they wired up the rest of the island, said that they would work with us to hook up those people. The trouble with working with Spectrum Times is that they're not talking to each other internally. So we have this commitment from the manager we work with in deploying or installing the fiber optic cable. But if you go to talk to Spectrum sales office, they don't seem to remember that commitment. So if someone wants to get internet access and they're in, referred to as the formerly served area, who had Spectrum service since really the 80s, please contact a member of the Broadband and Technology Committee. And we can go back and go to bat for you with Spectrum to get you wired up.
I think you were also mentioned, you're gonna talk about the franchise agreement.
Okay, well, that's,
We can postpone that.
let's not, because that's,
'Cause that,
I don't think that's
yeah.
necessarily going anywhere.
Okay, no, because, yeah, we already sort of mentioned the other, but you did a great job of that. As a reminder that we need to get people, if they want internet, to make sure that they get it. All right, I'm gonna move to admin items, and one of the first items is a Trio update, and we've had Trio forever. We are looking at Ashley and her team, which I think is April and Dee Dee, have been looking at their computer software. They're phasing out what they've been using forever, just like everything else. It's like, now you have to, whether you want to or not, you have to get the newer version. So they're transitioning all their clients to Trio Web. And they're not going to be making revisions or making a lot of changes or any enhancements or whatever to what's being used right now. So it's like you really don't have much choice but to get the new upgrade. So Ashley gave us a little bit of information to share tonight. The annual cost for the regular Trio that we have now, it's called SQL, is $13,087.90. And that contract expires the end of April. Trio Web will have an additional $3,000 annual fee to host our server, but they will take care of all the upgrades and everything else because it's now going to be all on web, back up all the data and everything else. There'll also be a one-time upgrade and setup fee for $4,995. In addition, for the Trio upgrade, we'll need to update our data process for the GIS site to make mapping software compatible to the Trio Web, which is something you're probably interested in. This is also a one-time fee of $1,800. In other words, we'll be looking for a total of $6,795 coming out of our admin budget. The $3,000 annual fee will be prorated to align with our current contract because our current contract ends in April. We're gonna switch over sooner than that, but we don't know exactly how that will impact. And that was it. Any questions or comments? Just basically letting you know that in order for us to keep doing business here at the office, we have to keep upgrading. So I just wanted to document that they are moving forward with this. We have to do a formal, probably wouldn't hurt to do a formal motion to approve going forward.
I think it's a good idea.
Yep, I think so too. So I'd like to move that we accept and encourage the staff to move forward with the Trio upgrade to Trio Web. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll have Ashley move forward to get that taken care of.
The time is that I think the last meeting mentioned they're upgrading the desktop machines. Yeah,
Yes.
and so this will be something, then after they get the computers upgraded, then they'll be able to load the changes into those new machines to connect to Trio Web.
And I think the new machines, well, they actually already have the machines. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just getting Burgess in
I think
to
that's
install them.
early February, I think, for some reason, I'm thinking February 4th or something.
End of next week, maybe?
Yeah. Next thing on the admin items, we have a resignation letter that just disappeared. Where's he, when we have to have resignations, but we have a letter of resignation from, Rich Lawrenson, who was chair of the, planning board, and he is, resigning effective, February 24th. And I'll read it to you because it's fairly short. I'm writing to inform you of my decision to resign from my volunteer position as chairperson of the Westport Island Planning Board and as member of the planning board. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time with the planning board and am grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the town of Westport Island. I'd like to express my sincerest gratitude to you, the select board, the CEO, and all the dedicated members of the planning board for their unwavering commitment and support. The experiences I have gained during my time with the planning board have been truly invaluable. I have decided that it is time for me to explore new horizons and pursue other interests. My last day as a member of the planning board will be February 29th, 2024. I will be available to help with a smooth transition during this period. So I'd like to move that we accept Rich's resignation, even though we're not happy about
Reluctantly.
that. Yes, exactly. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I have that letter, Donna, I need it
you
for
certainly can.
records.
Yep. Anything else on admin items, April?
No, not for me.
Anything from either of you two? No? Any other?
Oh, I'm sorry. Dee Dee asked that we bring up restoring internet at the town hall. I don't know if that's been dealt with otherwise, but she. wanted to
We
make
talked
sure.
about waiting and talking to Ashley about that, because
Okay.
Ashley's been working on that. So we'll talk to her on Thursday when we see each other again. If there are no other pieces of business, then I would like to make a motion that we adjourn for the evening. Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
The bar is open.
Yeah.
Didn't ask Bob, but was there, you coming to? Is there something we missed? Okay.
I didn't know if you were, what the process was.
Where's your,
So,
I think the process is gonna be that the planning board will vote.
Wow, we don't have a list.
We've got the information, so the next was